It's common knowledge now that email is one of your most important threat vectors, both inbound and outbound, so data leaving the organization. And because of this, most organizations have implemented something around PII, indicators like SSNs, going to external email addresses. But something that they commonly miss is looking for large attachments being sent to external email addresses, specifically personal email addresses like Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook, and others. And the reason why this is important is that those attachments often contain data that's really important to your organization, but might not be PII or caught by a narrow set of those sort of indicators. Think security vulnerabilities, intellectual property, employee performance reviews. And if it's being sent to a personal email address, that's generally going to raise some eyebrows. So today I'm going to show you how to create a very simple policy in Outlook DLP that only requires an E3 license, so you can start looking for this kind of activity. So we're going to go right over into the compliance console, and we're going to create a policy under DLP. We won't use one of their stock templates. We'll create a custom one, and you can name it whatever you want. Exchange monitoring. And from there, we'll select our locations of just Exchange email, because that's what we care about for this policy. Then we'll create our rule Exchange monitoring. And for our first condition, we're going to be looking for document size. So let's see, it is, I'm sure it's driving you crazy watching me skip it. There we go, document size equals or is greater than, we're going to switch to KBs. So this is up to an organization's discretion. I've seen a lot of organizations eventually end up around half a meg or 500 KBs. But for visibility's sake, I'd say start with 50 to 100. The balancing act here is getting as much visibility as possible while also not capturing a bunch of tiny little immaterial files and having to deal with those alerts as well. We're going to add a second condition, which is recipient domain is. And this is where we're going to add in those common personal email domains. Think about it, if you could say all external email addresses, but you're going to end up with a lot of false positives. And at a certain point, you might find that you want to look for that sort of thing, but in this case, we're looking for the obvious bads, the obvious vulnerabilities that we need to address. So you can start with some personal email handles like this. There's a few more like Outlook.com. You certainly want to include Proton Mail. You can think of a few more, but definitely capture the big ones. From there, you don't want to start with the user notifications, although those are fantastic, so I do want to cover them quickly. You can basically make it so that 10 to 20 seconds after someone sends one of these messages, they get an automated email that's going to tell them, hey, whatever you want to tell them, you don't need to be doing that. Check the security policy, file an exception, something like that. Something to note here, for some reason, Microsoft has the email text listed first, the subject listed after. So I've been caught by that before. And you can end up sending out some really funny looking notifications if you don't get that fixed. But initially, keep it just in monitoring mode. I think the rest of this you can figure out yourself just fine. So we'll save this, and then we will go ahead and push this right into production, because it's only monitoring. Of course, when you do start doing user alerts, or especially prevention, encryption sort of things, you certainly will want to test it out first. And so once we have pushed this out, you will go over into Activity Explorer, and you can interrogate that, and you can start filtering for that specific DLP policy, and you're going to start getting a really good understanding of who is sending attachments to personal email addresses. So you can start having investigative conversations and figuring out what you want to do from there, whether it's user training, more preventative measures, encryption, what have you. So there you have it. That's a really simple policy you can create to start monitoring for email attachments being sent to high-risk personal email addresses. Thank you for watching.